Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Man Cave with one final showing of the auction guitar. This is a Larrivee J10 and it was auctioned off and Joe Pepper bought it. And Joe, you got a good guitar here, man. I enjoy playing this guitar. It plays so easy. It's got a good sound. I'm pretty sure, Joe, you're going to really like it. When you get it, Joe, after you've had it a day or two, make a comment and let us know how you like the guitar. I'm confident enough that I know you'll like it really well. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to do one last song on this. I'm planning to do this song live next Thursday because it was requested already, but I thought I'll go ahead and do it today, just more for practice, because this will be the second time I've done it. Common sense ain't that common anymore. And I wonder, was it really common or just a metaphor? The way kids are raised these days, it's out the door. No, I don't think common sense is common anymore. Smartphones do the thinking for the group. More power in your hand than Armstrong took to the moon. We don't use our minds to complete any chore. No, I don't think common sense is common anymore. Our leaders make new laws that we can't enforce. Catch and release is the method they endorse. When something doesn't work, we just spend a lot more. No, I don't think common sense is common anymore. No, I don't think common sense is all that common anymore. Boy, howdy to that. Isn't that what Andy would have said? Boy, howdy. Andy Griffith. Yeah, something like that, or something along those lines. Let's see here. I've got a good program for you. I'm going to save you some money today and really seriously make a recommendation that if you're in business, you're going to want to hear for sure. And if you're not in business, you're still going to want to hear it because it'll still save you money, because most everybody has a printer if you're doing anything with a computer, let's say it that way. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a printer that you just really are going to want to get a hold of especially if you need to replace a printer. Let's see. First of all, though, I mentioned the guitar was sold to Joe Pepper, and it sold for a good price. It sold for what I think it's still worth. I don't think it's sold over its value at all. I think it's worth every penny. It's a good amount that we can send to the six-string heroes and feel real good about it. You all still have a chance to make a donation to the six-string heroes, and I would love it if you would do that. Just send me an email and tell me how much you'd like to donate, and I will send you a return invoice for that amount. And I will also send you the tax ID number, and you will be able to deduct it on your taxes, at least as far as I understand. That's what that tax ID number is for. And so anyway, you'll feel good all the way around, and it'll be supporting a good cause. These are soldiers that have severe type problems, either mental problems, PTSD type thing, or they've had amputations or suffered other illnesses, basically from the war situation that they were in. Let's see. Joe, by the way, Joe that bought the guitar says he wants to come visit and he would love to stay at one of our places. Well, Joe, we'd love to have you out here. But unfortunately, what's holding him back is his wife is ailing. And so if you could pray for Joe's wife, that would be great. Maybe we could get them out here one of these days. Switching subjects, my granddaughter was involved with a little project that I'm real proud of. I just saw it this morning. And there's what they call a children's museum in Newburgh. It's a real neat museum. It's kind of sad when the biggest draw around here is the Children's Museum, but we're out in the middle of nowhere. So there's not a lot of things around here to go see. But if you ever do come here, I'll tell you what, I would recommend you just make a stop in there at the Children's Museum. It's got some pretty interesting stuff in it. I mean, there's a lot of things about natural, things like animals and shells and just all kinds of stuff. It's more in there than you would think. For a little tiny place like this. But here's the project that my granddaughter Mary was involved in. You can see there they have a mural they painted on the side of the building. I thought they did a really fine job. Newburgh was a big railroad town, so it's pretty fitting that there's a big picture of an old locomotive there. And anyway, that's Mary on the far left, and I don't know the other people involved there, but they did a real nice job painting that. Let's see. The next thing is my consumer tip. So let's just go ahead and go there. This is the printer that I've been using for the last 4 or 5 years. ET4760. It's an Epson printer. It's a full color printer. Those things you see on the lower right are tanks of ink. The ink on this printer won't break your bank. It's incredibly different. The printer itself will cost more up front. But unlike the printers that you buy these days that they basically give them away so they can sell you the ink that doesn't have any ink in the cartridge, those little stupid ink cartridges, they're the biggest ripoff that ever hit the public. And I mean it sincerely. Those people should go to jail. Those ink cartridges have a little foam rubber thing inside of them, and they put like 2 drops of ink in that foam rubber. And I'm not kidding when I say that. It's not full of ink. It's just a few drops of ink on that foam rubber, and that's all you get. And I mean, it's not even a teaspoonful. And I'm not kidding. It's not even a half a teaspoonful. How do I know? I've taken them apart. There's nothing in there. And you can take them apart when they're brand new and no ink will run out. That's how little ink is in them. This is completely different. And those little ink cartridges, they don't give them away. They're like $30. I mean, they're ridiculous prices. And this stuff here, the ink on this, you buy it in large bottles, and they're cheaper than those ink cartridges. And they last forever. I'm seriously telling you, if you're in business, get this printer. You will send me a thank you letter, I guarantee you, because it's that different. ET4760. Now, it costs more up front. It's like $560 up front. But the ink lasts forever, and it's cheap as it can be, and the print quality is excellent. It also faxes. It also copies. It has a large printer paper compartment, so you can put a lot of paper in it. I forget how many sheets you can put in it, but a lot. I don't know how many, but anyway, it also has an Ethernet connection, and you can plug it directly into your Ethernet port. It also has your typical USB port, so you don't have to be in business. You can just use this on a regular PC, or whatever. You just plug it directly in. But it does work wirelessly also. So it's a great printer. It just is. I can't sing its praises high enough. Now, having said that, that's in the expensive one. There's cheaper alternatives that do similar things. I'm going to tell you about that too. I just bought a 2760. Now, I can't really recommend it yet because I just got it yesterday, the 2760. Now, it looks just like this, except that it's scrunched down a little bit, so it's not quite as tall. It doesn't have a large paper compartment on the bottom, and unfortunately, and I didn't realize this till I got it, it doesn't have an Ethernet connection on the back, so you do have to connect it directly to a PC. with a USB connection. That's the 2760, but it does have the same ink exactly. It uses the same brand of ink, same kind of ink, everything. Same bottles, the whole bit's got the same reservoirs on the front. So the 2760 would be a little bit cheaper alternative to this if you're trying to save a little bit of money, but I can't really recommend the 2760 yet because I haven't used it long enough. And then there's yet an even cheaper alternative. They have a 4800 series. The 4800, though, I have no experience with at all. It looks like it uses the same ink technology, but it uses different ink. So, in other words, you can't buy the same ink you put in this one and put it in the 4800 and the 2800. So you could look into them though, and if they're, you know, if everything else is comparable, and you'll just have to cross compare them to know. But the 4800 is only like $239, and the 2800 is only like $199. So, but you'll have to do your own homework on whether or not it's worth getting into the cheaper costs, because I don't know. But if you're in business, I guarantee you this ET4760, you'll be writing me a thank you letter. It's that good. It's never given me 1 ounce of problems in the 5 years. Unlike a lot of printers that seem to never show up on the network or whatever, this thing's there every time. You can unplug it anywhere on my network. Like it's been down in my shop for years, and now I brought it up here, plugged it in, and it worked. The instant I plugged it in, it was already there and ready to go. I just can't say enough good things about it. Compared to the crap that you buy these days in terms of printers, it's not even a similar comparison. This is so much better, it's not even funny. So I just thought I'd throw that out there and save you some money on that darn cheap ink that is just, I'm seriously telling you, somebody should be in jail over that ink, the way they sell those cheap cartridges for the huge money, and there's nothing in them. It's our biggest ripoff that's ever been put on the public, in my opinion. Now, you want to know how I really feel about it? The channel would be taken down. Anyway, now you know, so it's not my fault if you don't save some money on your ink and stuff. Let's see. I worked on the water wheel project, and here's a very short video, but I'm going to follow this up with a little bit of a demonstration type thing for you here. So anyway, here's the short video, but let me set the circumstances. I quit working on it, it was probably around 4 o'clock, because the thunder was just cracking everywhere, and the sky got dark. The picture doesn't look all that dark, but it was really dark at that moment. And anyway, I was going to give you a little bit better explanation, a little better look, but would you not know, as I'm filming it, here comes the mail lady, and I've got the road blocked, so I had to I had to stop. But so that's why it's kind of short, but here it is anyway. Here it is, Thursday late afternoon, and I'll show you what I got done today. I did a lot of tuck pointing on all of this wall. Now, I didn't do very far up this way. I did mostly this direction. And anyway, I filled in a ton of holes and cracks. I also tuck pointed the seam down through there and any cracks that came across. Now, it is, still wet, but I'm thinking that concrete will cure underwater. At least that's my theory. I believe it will. Hopefully it will, and if it doesn't, well, then I'll have to back up and do something else. But anyway, there's a lot more fill in here in tuck pointing than it would look like. And then you can see about where I stopped here. There's a lot of seams and a lot more seams. And the whole wall looked like that before I did my job. So anyway, there you go. I'm going to have to get off here because the mail lady's here. Yeah, you'd be surprised how often when I'm doing something I get interrupted. You'd think out here in the middle of nowhere you'd just be peaceful, you'd never have an interruption. That's not the way it goes for me. I don't care what I start. As soon as I get started, something, it's like, okay, fine. I'll drop that and go to something else. It's that way all day long. You'd be surprised. You'd really be surprised. It's just that Rosa thing. But anyway, I'm making good progress on that. My hope is that today I can do the the tail end of that where it goes into the pipe, and try to get all of that cleaned up and set up so that it'll go into the pipe. Once I get that, then tomorrow I can open that back up and let the water start flowing through the pipe like it used to. So anyway, I'm going to try to get that part done today. Now here's the demonstration and the tips I was going to give you. You know, tuck pointing, a lot of times you hear people say tuck pointing and you think it's kind of like a mystery, like I need to have my chimney tuck pointed, or my wall around my patio needs to be tuck pointed, or that kind of thing. Well, tuck pointing is actually pretty darn simple, and if you have the right couple of tools, and you need like 2 tools, that's it. It's pretty darn easy. You can do it yourself. You don't have to pay big major bucks, and it's not even that hard at all. It's pretty easy to do. Well, here's the first tool that I use. Now, I'm not saying this is the tool you have to have. I use this one. Now, this is a large, I don't even know what you call this thing. I have no idea. It's just a handle with a flat plate on it. I truly don't know what you call it. I'm sure somebody will put it in the comments. But anyway, you put a mound of your mortar up here. You mix up your mortar. You just put a blob of it up here. And then you can just take that, you rake off some of that mortar, and you rake it. And you hold this right against the crack. I mean, like real close to the crack. And then you can just rub it right into the crack. And this is a tuck pointing trowel. And it's just a trowel that's made for tuck pointing. You can buy them at the hardware store. And they're not expensive. And you can, you know, just... And then you work this seam like that, and you just rub it in there. And then, like, if you get it like on this rough wall, which is not like brick, you can pretty much just hold this right up there and you're good to go. But on a rough wall like that, there's ins and outs and there's holes back in there. Well, then you can take and use the corner, and you can rake it, get the corner right up next to that hole and rake it off into the corner. Now, this is the large one. They make them smaller. They make one that's much smaller, and if you're not used to doing this, the smaller one might be your better bet, because if you load this up with mortar, it's heavy. And I'm used to doing stuff like this. I've done this my whole life. I know it sounds like I do everything my whole life, but the truth is I have. I've done everything my whole life. It's just the way I grew up. You just do everything yourself, you know. And so this is just a common thing for me. And I'm good at holding the mortar on here. Now, there's nothing to keep the mortar on here. If you turn it like this, the mortar's going to fall off, you know. So you have to have good balance. You have to have good strength in your arm to do it. That's why you might want to go with the smaller one if you're not used to doing it. But me, I like the big one. And I also use this, and this is going to shock a lot of people probably, especially the drywallers that are out there in the world. Most people use that little trough thing, almost like a pan with high sides for drywall. I don't. I put my mud on here, and then I take the big drywall knife and I slide it along here and scrape it off and throw it on the wall. And I'm way faster with this. And I don't like to use that trough at all for drywall mud. I use this for drywall mud, and it works so good, and I can do it so fast and just cover a large area. I'm not a professional drywaller, but I'm pretty close. You'd be surprised. I can keep up with most anybody doing drywall on this, using this technique. Again, you have to be good at holding this thing and keep it from tipping, because your mud's going to fall off on the floor if you're not good at that. But I'm used to doing it, and I've been doing it for years, and that's what I do. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw those tips out to you in case you have something that needs to be tuck pointed. It's not that complicated. The hardest part of it is mixing up the mortar. That's the hardest part of the job. This part of the job's pretty darn simple. It's really not that hard at all. So there you go. So if you can mix mortar, you can tuck point. I think that's everything I had for you today. So let's move into the comments. And my gosh, it's like every day it's more comments before we go live. Every day. Rod Wentler was number 1 today again. John Pepper is there. And let's see. Moving on down. David Tharp has a question mark. It says, the police came to my house and said they had complaints about my dog chasing some kid on a bicycle. I told them it couldn't be my dog because he doesn't ride a bicycle. That's that dad. Those are what you call dad jokes. I think that's why I find them funny. I like that. I like simple humor like that. That's good stuff. Theory Hacker doesn't have any question marks. He says, hello, Jerry and friends. I won't stay. I have to go shopping. You have to go shopping? That's the poorest excuse I've ever heard. Bill Webb's there. He says, good morning. And all the Rosa rabble. This is fixing to head out to Kinder, Louisiana for the weekend. Well, cool. And moving on down, I see some question marks. Thomas Armstrong, good morning, Jerry. Wondering if there's an old hand-dug well on your property where the house used to be, where you metal detect. Sometimes artifacts are around them. I don't think there's any hand-dug wells, and the reason is because this place was just teeming with springs. They didn't need to make any wells. They just used the spring water. Now, knowing what we know about that today, it's probably not the best choice, but spring water is pretty good water. I mean, if you're out in the wild and the only option you've got is say a river or a spring, well, the spring's your best option, or a pond or something. Your spring is by far your best option. So spring water is what people use. In fact, my great uncle and his name was Gene Duncan down in Ellington. He used spring water. Heck, I was out of high school by the time they quit using spring water, I think. So, it's been around a long time. Gary Hayden, for your live show, I'd like to request that Don's guitar picking be featured. Oh Lonesome Me or any Merle Travis tune. Well, I will mention that to Don, and I'll see him tonight. We have a jam tonight. I showed you that Newburgh Children's Museum wall there, and we're down in Newburgh this evening at the Houston House, and we have a jam there. So I'll write down Merle Travis, and I'll write down Oh Lonesome Me. He probably knows that. He knows a lot of the old country stuff. Don does. So I'll sure mention it. Okay, moving on. Dottie Hildebrand, Jerry, can I request the concert Father of Bluegrass? I'll write that down. All right, and moving on down. Did I ever find Leon? Leon went on a fishing trip. He was on a family fishing trip. Apparently he does it every year at that time, and that's why he was gone. But he will be at our live concert Thursday. He won't be at the jam tonight. He doesn't come to the local jams here because it's too far. But he does come to the restaurant. So he'll be at our next restaurant concert, I think. But anyway, so he's doing fine. He's okay. Looking for question marks again, so I'm searching. Dottie Hildebrandt, I'm praying for the rabble friends and praying daily for your hands. Well, thank you, Dottie. Be sure to include Joe's wife, the fellow that bought the guitar. Let's see. Bill Mumbo, hi, Dottie. Oh, okay. And the tuck pointing Flume. That sounds slightly rude. An American hobby? Or is it my mucky mind? It's your mucky mind, Bill. Dottie Hildebrandt, Bill Mumbo, you have a way with words. Do you write songs? If so, how many have you written? So that's interesting. Uh, let's see, I'm moving down through here. Gordon Bartlett, morning, Jerry. I have some lightning struck red pine wood from very old tree. There are several questions. Okay. And I noticed he had several questions here. I saw some of them before we went live there just for a second. That's also what distracted me for a second there, and I was late clicking the live button. Is it better to use compression wood from the underside of a limb? Boy, I never got into anything like that, Gordon. That kind of specific detail on the wood, I wouldn't know. I would think not, though. I would think you don't want to use, you would want to use, for the top, which is what pine would be the best for, you would definitely want your clearest, softest wood you could find. So compression doesn't sound like that to me. But you wouldn't, typically the wood that you would use for an instrument is in the trunk of the tree, out in the big open area of the trunk, and with as few limbs as possible. And of course, the most important factor of that is that it needs to be quarter sawn, meaning that it has to be sliced more like the way you slice pie, and that way the rings are going through the slices. Moving down, I think he's got some more questions about it too. We'll get to those. Looking for other question marks. Well, here he is again. It says, is the wood suitable for soundboard? It is only suitable for soundboard under several conditions. Number one, it's quarter sawn. Number two, it's a softwood. Now, most pines are, well, all pines are considered softwood. They're considered softwood. That doesn't mean they're soft. There are soft hardwoods and there are hard softwoods. You can't say that 10 times real fast. But anyway, as an example, and this is the only good example I've got in when it comes to pine, because I don't know that much about pine. Yellow pine is harder than a brickbat. You would not want to use yellow pine for the top of a guitar, because it is as hard as any wood there is. It's as hard as oak. When it gets dry, it's very, very hard. You don't want to use that. You want to use a softwood. The softness of the wood mellows out the metallic strings. If you're using a hard wood on the top, you're going to get a harsher sound. It's not going to blend that's why a guitar either sounds good or it sounds tinny. Same way with a mandolin. Is if you can't get that wood to vibrate, then it's going to sound tinny. It's going to sound metal because you're hearing the strings vibrate, but you're not hearing the wood vibrate. So you definitely want the wood to vibrate. So the softer part of your wood that you can use, the better you are on your top board. Again, I wouldn't use pine for the back and sides, with the possible, and I'm just saying possible, exception of maybe yellow pine. You might get away with yellow pine for your back and sides. I mean, you can make it out of anything. You can make it out of balsa wood. There's no reason you can't make one out of anything. But if you're trying to get your best sound, these are the guidelines I'm giving you. Gordon Bartlett again says, how long should I let it age? Well, there's no magic bullet on numbers of days that let something age. It all is about the moisture content in the wood when you start, and it's about the conditions you're keeping it in and all of that. So there's no way I can just give you a black and white number. Your best bet is to buy a cheap moisture meter and keep track of your moisture. And it really should be down to around 6% moisture when you're ready to use it for an instrument. If it's much higher than that, it's going to move on you after you build your instrument. But once you get it down to 6% moisture content, which is very dry, people think that 6% moisture still in the wood? Trust me, that's really dry. It would almost never dry out more in your house than the 6% moisture content. So anyway, that's why you don't really need to humidify them, because that's really dry. So I can't give you a number on how long it takes. It takes how long it takes to get it down to 6% moisture content. That's really what you're trying to do. Could you build one with a higher moisture content? Well, I wouldn't want to build one more than 8% moisture content. Now, furniture, you can build furniture, 8%, 10%, 12%, you'll probably be fine. But a guitar is different. You want to build them like 6% moisture content. It's not to say that your furniture won't move when it's at a higher rate. It will, but you can get away with furniture, generally speaking, where you can't get away with it on an instrument. Let's see, moving on down. Thomas Armstrong says that lightning struck wood reminds me of a movie, The Natural. Yeah, that lightning struck bat, that was Hollywood for the most part. There's really not much to it other than Hollywood. Anyway. Dottie Hildebrandt has a question mark there. Bill Mumbo, have you ever met the Queen before she passed? Oh, cool. I don't know. Ronald Todd, great chirp this morning, Jerry. Thank you. Charles Salkowitz, Jerry, any hints on finish stage sanding on a guitar with Padauk sides and back and spruce top? Ways to prevent Padauk sawdust from staining the top. Well, I didn't do this all the time, but I tried, I would do the sanding on the Padauk first, of course, and then maybe do the sanding on the top last. But what you can do, and what I started doing later on, I didn't do it in the early stages, but I started doing it later on, was like I would get the top sanded really nicely. Then I'd spray some lacquer on it, maybe get just enough on it to get it sealed, or you could even use the sealer coat lacquer that they have. I don't think it does you any good. I don't think it does a thing more than just your standard lacquer, in my opinion, but you could still use like the sealer stuff that they actually sell for lacquer if you wanted to, and spray that on there to seal the pores of the whitewood first. And you might have to put a little tape off deal around the Padauk to keep from getting it on there, but I was pretty good at holding it at the right angle so that the spray would miss the Padauk, and I never bothered taping it off. And then you could sand your Padauk, and then, if you did get anything on the white, you should be able to wash it off or wipe it off or whatever. So, yeah, Padauks, well, almost any exotic wood will stain your white wood, but Padauk's especially bad for it. It is. It's really especially bad for it. Anyway, so that's the best I got on that. Dottie's got question marks there. It says, nice song, Jerry. I'm not catching and releasing anything next week. Good. I hope you do. Hope you have a big fish fry. Charles Salkowitz, Padauk loves to stain anything near it. Yes, Padauk does stain exceptionally well. It does. But if you're careful, you'll be fine. It's not that big a deal. Let's see. Downhill Brent, Bill Mumbo, what is the hardest instrument you play? Okay, well, I keep missing. Bill Mumble says, banjo. It takes years to become mediocre, and I'm hoping to become that eventually. Yeah, banjo is a tough one. In my opinion, the toughest instrument, this is me talking. In my opinion, the toughest instrument is the violin, the fiddle, and it's mostly to do with the bow. The banjo is a close second. So there you go. Glenn Woods, Joe, the guy who got the Larrivee sure got a great deal there. Okay, well, good. Yeah, it's a good guitar. I'm pretty positive he'll be tickled with it. It's a great guitar. And it sold at a decent price that we can be proud and present that money to the Six String Heroes. It's good deal. It's good deal all the way around. Glenn Woods, that guitar is awesome. I had an L03 Larrivee one time, and it was such a nice sounding guitar. I couldn't afford to bid on this one. And anywho, I live in Australia, so not realistic for me. Right. Yeah, it would have been, you would have paid more in your shipping. Well, you wouldn't have paid more, no, but it would have cost you a lot of money to ship it over there. Dottie Hillebrand, Bill Mumbo, I just be happy to play songs and they okay, moving on down. Let's see. DE, I heard that you should not handle the ink in those little cartridges because it's very toxic. I am not sure about that though. Well, you know, if you live in California, you cannot touch ink cartridges like that. Just thought I'd let you know that. But if you live anywhere else, you're okay. Making that up, of course, that's just a joke. Don't hate me for it. But you know that, you know, cancer is caused by California. I mean, I'm sorry. California says everything causes cancer. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's not, I wouldn't want to drink it for sure. I don't think it's going to hurt if you got it on your hands. I don't think so. I can tell you for sure I've gotten it on my hands and I'm still here and I'm doing pretty well. Honestly, those ink cartridges, seriously, in my opinion, is the biggest ripoff ever put on the public, ever. It's billions of dollars and you get nothing. I mean, it's so pathetic. I mean, they sell you this thing for 30, 40 bucks, this little stupid cartridge, and I swear to you, it ain't got more than 5 drops of ink in it. If it's got 5 drops of ink in it, you did really well. It ain't got nothing in it. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've hated that since the day it ever started. I absolutely have hated it because you know it's a ripoff, and it is a total ripoff. That's why I can't say good enough things about this printer and the kind of ink that it comes with. It's night and day. It's not even similar at all. So get this kind of printer if you want to do some serious printing. And by the way, I was going to tell you this earlier. I've had all kinds of printers. I mean, all kinds. When I had my recording studio, I was printing the jackets and CD covers and things, and I had all kinds of printers. I had dye sublimation printers, Tektronix printers. I've had a bunch of different kinds of printers. Those ones that melt the wax. I don't know. I've just had everything. And overall, hands down, not even a close second, that's the best printer I've ever owned. So I've got a lot of experience with printers. Carolyn Fike, does that printer also scan? Yep, that one scans, it faxes, it does pretty much everything that you would ever need a printer to do. Yeah, it's killer. Can I honestly say it's the best print image I've ever seen? No. The Tektronix printers, those wax dye sublimation printer, I can't even remember what they were called anymore. Those were probably better print quality, but they were such a hassle and so expensive, and the ink and everything was so expensive that when you talk the overall thing, that's the best printer on the planet in terms of anything I've ever seen. Moving on down. Bill Mumble says he tries to play something every day when arthritis allows it. Not as bad as Jerry. Also got the Viking claw, which is trying to close my hands. Oh yeah, there. Yeah, that's that Dupuytren's contraction, and I've got it too. I really do. You can probably see it there in my hand, right there. And but I have stretched my hand every day since the mid-90s when it was discovered. I stretch it every day, and when I stretch that right there, I'm not kidding you when I tell you, it just feels like it's tearing something in here. It gets hot. It honestly does. I'm not making that up. It feels like there's something tearing in there. It gets really hot. But I do this every single day. You can see the stress I got on my fingers. Look at the color in my knuckles up there above, you know. It's a stress. It's really hard. And I try to overstress it every day. And that's kept my hand from doing that, and I've never needed that operation. My doctor says, your hand's going to close on you. He says, this was the doctor's words, I don't drink, but he says, the moment you can't hold a beer can, that's when we operate. But he said, I asked him, I said specifically, if I stretch it every day, do you think that would help? He goes, well, I've never had anybody try that, but if I were you, I would try that. It's worked. It's worked. Now, I'm not saying that anybody that's already far along can do what I'm doing, but if you are lucky enough to find out you've got that in the early stages, stretch your hand every day and you'll be fine. It doesn't cause me any trouble. If I quit stretching it or forget to for a while, it'll create, the first sign is you'll feel like, and it feels exactly like a BB is under your skin. And you go, boy, that's weird. And you can move it around. It feels like it moves around. And it feels like a BB. And then once you start stretching it again, it goes away. So there you go. That's your other public service announcement there. Dupuytren's contraction is way more common than you think. In fact, I've known lots of people that have it. And all of them have always been way further along than me, and their hands are like that. So, let's see. Moving on down here. Looks like some people came up with the name of that tool that I didn't know the name of it. And I've heard that now that you say it, but I would never have got that on my own. I've lost my place. All right, Gotta Fly Lee says, I have an Epson 2400, and I will say that it has been the best printer I've ever had to print a lot of music for the church, and after a year and a half printing, I still have plenty of ink in it. Yeah, especially if it's this tank thing, you can't beat it. I would, again, mine's the 4760. I just got the 2760, which is the little brother of this. I'm a little disappointed because it don't have the Ethernet port. The 4800 and the 2800 are the alternatives I was suggesting because those are just the ones I just saw. But he says 2400 there too. So that's another one you could look into. But the point is, if it holds the ink reservoir like this, and I would do some homework on it. Don't just, make sure that the ink, because like the ink that I use is called a 502. It's a 502 ink. And Epson 502. That stuff is in my opinion, super cheap since you get so much of it. It's super cheap. So anyway, and it seems to last forever. I mean, I can't remember the last time I filled up those tanks. Let's see. Moving on down. Chuck Heidbreder, it's called a Hawk. Yeah, this is called a Hawk. Give me 5 reasons why that's called a Hawk. I don't have any idea. But I've heard that now that you say it. I would never have come up with that on my own, though. Carolyn Fike, I think it's a Hod. Well, it's possible. I think the Hod was the bigger deal that went up on their shoulder, I think. I don't know that either. I'm no bricklayer. But that's what I always thought it was anyway, is they had a pole almost, and they carried this pole, and there's a big V metal thing up here where they put the mortar in that thing, and then they were a hod carrier is what they were. But I don't know if that's right or not either. Salkowitz, I believe it's called a Hod. Yeah, okay, well, maybe it is a Hod. Maybe the Hawk, maybe that's, okay, there you go. So the Hawk probably is supposed to be the word Hod, I would imagine. I've heard of hod carriers, but I always thought the hod carrier was the big thing up on your shoulder. I wouldn't have thought of calling this a hod. I don't know. But when you said hawk, you know why I think I remember the word hawk regarding this? I'm pretty sure there's a hawk emblem, at least at Menards, on some of their concrete tools. There's actually a hawk flying on some of their tools, and that's where I think I remember seeing it from. That's why when you said hawk, that hit note, but I'm pretty sure it's an emblem on a lot of their tools. I don't know. Anyway. Let's see. Ronald says it's called a hawk also. Moving on down. Whatever it's called, it works. Is all again, I don't care what you, like I've always said, I don't give a rip what you call something. I want to know if you know how to use it. That's all I care about. If you know how to use it, you're good to go. Mike Jones, thanks, Jerry. I bought a printer back for $99 24 years ago. Only $99 for the printer. Little did we know, the cartridge scam. You finally cracked it. Thanks. Yeah, the cartridge scam, I'm not kidding you, is the biggest scam on the planet. The way I decided to fix that scam was I started taking my cartridges apart and filling them with my own ink. And in the early days, you could do that, and it worked perfectly. And you could print and print and print, and you get 5,000 times more printing out of a cartridge that you filled yourself as opposed to the ones that came from the factory. But then they got wise to that, and they figured out some way to put some kind of sensor in there, and they probably put something in their ink on top of it to screw you out of being able to do that. In other words, somehow the later printers could tell that you had put I'm just using the non-company, I'll use company as a generic term, non-company printing ink in your printer cartridge, and they could tell it, and then your printer wouldn't even work with that ink. Oh, it's such a ripoff, man. It makes me so mad. I want to go in there and just grab a hold of people. I really do, on stuff like that, because it is the biggest scam. It's an absolute, in my opinion, it's stealing. It's no different than putting a gun to somebody and stealing their money. It's the same kind of thing, in my opinion. You are not getting what you're paying for, and that's not right. It's stealing, in my opinion, 100%. They'll go to hell for it. They really will. Spike Moto, hi Jerry. What do you think is the best sand to Portland cement ratio for mixing your mortar? I'll be honest, I cop out on that and I just buy it in the sack. Now, years ago, I used to mix it, and 3-2-1, I think it was, something like that. Three gravel, 2 sand, 1 cement, something like that was the way I did it when I was mixing concrete. I didn't mix a whole lot of mortar from scratch, but I did mix some, and it was sand and just Portland cement. Sometimes you'd put a little lime in it back, but I hardly used the lime much. Honestly, I don't know, so I'm just talking out loud. But I've done it. It's just been years and years and years ago. I just cop out and buy it in the sack. And by the way, there's 2 kinds that, at least at your typical home store, there's 2 kinds. And I should have looked this up before, too. There's like an S type and an M type, I think. And I'm making that up because I don't really remember, but I think it's S and M. And one of them is stronger than the other one. I always buy the stronger one. You can look on the package or you can Google it. Actually, I think that's what I did when I was at Menards the last time. I Googled which one is the stronger mortar, and that's the one I bought. So anyway, there you go. Power in your hand. That cell phone does the thinking for you now. Anyway, let's moving on down. So I'd tell you if I knew, but I don't know, Spike. Paul Akers, have you ever seen clear plastic put over the face of a guitar headstock? If so, was it a cost-cutting measure or what? No, I can't really say I've seen that exactly. I've seen a lot of hokey stuff done up at the peg heads, but it's usually only on really cheap instruments when I see stuff like that. So I don't know. I can't honestly say I've seen what you're mentioning there, clear plastic put over the face of a headstock. I don't recall seeing that. Charles Salkowitz, thank you, Jerry. Double thumbs up. Okay, well, good. Bill Mumbo, I saw the Queen. Oh, he's saying, I saw the Queen Knight Sir Francis Chichester, the round the world sailor. My primary school is close to the Naval College. Cool. So you're part of history there, man. You witnessed history. Ronald Todd, sanding sealer penetrates the wood deeper than regular finish. Yeah, those are some of the myths. I'm sorry, I don't believe any of the stuff. I don't believe it. It's all about the same to me. I've tried them for years and years and years. I can't tell one bit of difference on any of that junk. So I'll take your word for it, but I don't believe it. That's the, I'm not going to argue with you about it. Me personally, that's not how it works out for me. In fact, I don't like any sanding sealers. I don't like any pore fillers. All of them are crap in my opinion. Every one of them. They're almost as bad as this ink cartridge thing. They say they do these things and they just don't do what they say. They don't fill the pores. I mean, if you do it 40 times, they'll fill your pores, but you got to do it again and again and again and again and again. Well, I got to do it again and again and again with finish, so why bother with the pore filler? There you go. That's just me on my rant. I really don't like any of that stuff. I've had, like I said, I've had the CEOs of 2 different companies on the phone with me telling me exactly how to do what they're, and it still didn't work. So, too bad, so sad. I don't like it. It's a ripoff, in my opinion. You all understand. You don't have to agree with me on this stuff. This is just my experience, my opinion. You can take it and do with it as you wish. Rudd Jansen, what is on my t-shirt? I'm here because you broke it, man. You broke it. This is the t-shirt I probably should wear every day because it's the general reason I am where I am. It's pretty true. Moving on down, let's see. Dottie Hildebrand, is that what makes your hands hurt so bad, Jerry? I've lost the context. Is that mortar and holding that thing out like that? That makes it hurt. You're right on that. But I'm used to doing it, and I can still do it. Does it feel good? No, I don't feel good, but I do it. Bill Mumbo, me too, my family all get it. My mother stretched her hands. Also, nose runs in my family. Let's see. A hod is for carrying bricks. Okay. Yeah, I've noticed they carry bricks in it too, but I think they also carried mortar in it, didn't they? Or maybe I'm just wrong. And this is the old days. Nobody does any of that stuff anymore. They got better ways to do it, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. Gary Hayden, you can bet there's some politicians getting cut for every ink cartridge sold. Oh, probably. Yeah, it's the biggest ripoff ever. I'm not lying when I say it's the biggest ripoff ever. It really is. Because think of the millions and millions and millions and millions of ink cartridges sold. And you're getting nothing in the cartridge. And I mean nothing when I say nothing. There's nothing in it. It's the biggest ripoff there ever was. Never seen anything bigger ripoff ever. Ronald Todd, when I did mason work, the ratio was 3 sand to cement and 1 lime for mortar. Yeah, that kind of sounds right. It always seems to be 3-2-1. That's kind of, you're right. I think you're right, Ronald, there. Let's see. Well, I don't think you're right. You know you're right. And so you're right, but I didn't remember. It's been years since I've done anything like that. S&M mortar, Does not sound good. When I said it, I thought of that too. So there you go. But you had to go there, didn't you, Zappa? Dowdy Hildebrand. Jerry, have you seen the newest to add the stone or brick in place and put dry cement and then wet cure it? Yeah, I've seen that, and you know, why? What did that really save you? I'd say if that's your thing and you want to do it, feel free. But I don't see any point in that. I really don't. I've seen where they pour the dry concrete mix in around fence posts. That kind of makes some sense because that's going to get wet and get hard over time. And it's a good filler, and the post is pretty much solid instantly when you pour it in there because it fills in really tight. So I can kind of see it there, but beyond that, I don't see much point in it. I've seen a lot of people just, you know, pour a slab that way dry and then wet it down. And I don't think that cures as well. I don't think you get as strong a concrete that way. That's my opinion, but maybe I'm wrong. The stretching and afterwards. Is that good for my hands? Well, I don't know, but I know it keeps them from curling up where I can't close them, you know, or where I can't open them, I should say. So it's something you got to do if you've got that Dupuytren's contraction. But you can feel it there. I mean, like, this is not something I'm making up. You can feel it. It's there, boy. I mean, it's a knot. You can feel the knot right in there. And if I didn't do that, I know what it would look like. For the people that have it, it'll make these like U-shaped things in their hand here, and it just draws up like that. I've seen it a lot on the after effects of people that have it. There's been a number of musicians I've met that have it. And I've got it, but I don't, you know, I'm not letting it get a hold. I'm keeping my hands stretched. And I would recommend you stretch your hands too. And even if you're in the stages of it, I would see if you can make an improvement by stretching. And you wouldn't want to try to stretch it all in one time. You know, you just stretch till it starts to hurt and just kind of hold it at that spot. And then stretch till it hurts the next day and the next day and the next day, and just see if it gains you anything. I'd be curious to know. I bet it will gain you something. Because like I said, if I forget to do it, I start to feel the effects of it, and then I start stretching, and eventually I get it back to where I'm at. That's just me. Chelsea Francis McCarthy, turmeric and castor oil is an overnight fix. What took a long time to deposit can take at least 6 weeks to help you get better. Cayenne pepper is also effective. Yeah, well, maybe so. And you could be 100% correct, but I'm over it. That's the way I feel about it. I really seriously feel it's a genetic thing that came from my parents, and I don't think I'm going to get over it. That's just the way I feel about it. Yeah, it's not an overnight fix. Yeah, okay. I got you. I totally get you. I totally get it 100%. And I ain't even arguing with you. You could be 1,000% correct. But I'm over it myself. I'm not messing with it anymore. I'm done with it. I'm over it. I think it's genetic, and I don't think there's a thing that can be done to fix it. That's my opinion. Maybe it's just being stubborn, but after you've tried as many things as I've tried, and people just swear that it works this and it works that, and nothing. I feel nothing. It's just not worth dealing with anymore. So Dottie says she's going to give me a break next week because she's going to be gone. She's going fishing. Well, good luck on your fishing trip. Y'all have a great weekend. I doubt I'll get anything out this weekend, but if I can, I will. I got so much on my plate. That's the sad thing. And it takes forever to put out a video. It takes way longer to do the video than it does to do the work. I know that sounds stupid to most of you, but it's the truth. It really takes longer to make a video than it does to do the actual work. We will see you Monday with something else. Y'all take care.